Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network, the first one of the new year. Jersey Joe's first in the chat. Phantom was a close second. Mike's in the chat. Mike, good evening. Thank you for being here. Canada Heavy Haul. Hey, Happy New Year, my friend. You want to get into the live chat, you can do it if you're watching from anywhere else, X, Rumble, and you want to get with the cool people in the chat. Go to the SHR Media YouTube page. Go to YouTube, search SHR Media. You click on the live circle button around the Patriot. It should bring you, boom, right into the chat. And you can get in and just poke around with these fine human beings. I hope you had a great New Year. I had a quiet New Year, and I was okay with that. I think I was in bed at 12:05 New Year's Eve. Long gone are the days where I would have been up to 4 or 5 in the morning. PC's in the chat. He was also first. It's so funny how many people were first in the chat. They all just claim it over and over again. 705 followers over on our YouTube channel, subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you, but we're pushing for more. 750 is the next little threshold we're at. So please like the episode, subscribe to the channel. It would be unbelievably appreciated. I just was fortunate. There's a group on X that I'm a part of, and it is the California Patriot Project. And they do a really good job over there of trying to rally conservatives in California. They've had a couple of gubernatorial candidates come in and talk. It's been really good. There's one of them that's in there all the time, Kobe, who is just a cool dude. He's a lot of fun to talk to, a lot of great insight. And it just reminds me, and I'm going to talk about Maduro, I'm going to talk about Walz, I'm going to talk about all that, but it does remind me how important local elections are. I know in this channel, I cover California and I slam Newsom and yada, yada, yada. I haven't really talked about the election much. I will start here in the next month or so, really getting into it. But it's something that I think we forget about on a regular level. Not everybody, but more and more people kind of, the local elections, the state elections are almost throwaways. I mean, you see the turnout if it's not a national or a year where there's a national election to go along with it. And being in that chat room earlier in that live, where they were polite enough to let me talk for a while, it's something to me that I'm gonna make it more important as part of my life, because it does affect your every day. Thank you, Listening Post. I almost forgot I did a show too. I was actually, what's funny is while I was in there talking in there live, I moved my microphone and I never realized on this mic stand, the plug for the mic faces me and the little detent to hold it in place is right where my thumb is when I move it. And I've somehow never hit it. And of course I hit it tonight while I was speaking. So clearly I don't know how to operate all this equipment either. So yeah, I don't remember having a show. It doesn't matter. I'm here. So let's get back. Hey, Mission Ready Men's in the chat. Thank you. Let's get back to the big stuff. It's man, has it been crazy. I know we did the show last night where we talked about the Venezuela attack. I love you too, Listening Post. Where we talked about the Venezuela, the snatch and grab, if you will, of Maduro and how we got him back here before Trump's Diet Coke got warm. It's still amazing to me. Now tonight, this tells you, if you want to talk about the psychological effect that has on a country. I'm going to show you a video right now that came from Venezuela. It came from this evening. Oh, would help if I shared the right thing. And it really, it's chaotic. So bear with me as it plays, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. This was just 2 hours ago inside Caracas. Law enforcement's everywhere. There was gunfire. I have it there somewhere. It's not that important. Here's what happened. And again, we're talking about the psychological effect that an operation like we conducted in Venezuela. Apparently, government drones that were up over Caracas that were, I'm guessing, sent to just extra security because you just had a whole bunch of swinging dicks run in and swipe out El Presidente and the missus, and he was already arraigned in court today. It was their own drones that were up there for observational security, and then the presidential security that didn't know it was the state security decided to fire on it and opened up with anti-aircraft gun on their own drones. As I said, if you don't realize how deep a mission like that runs and what the effects are, you, my friend, are not paying attention. So let's talk about the charges that are going on with Maduro, or the charges that were levied against Maduro. As I said, he was in court today, and I'm going to give you the brief synopsis because I do want to get into the pant wetting that is going on with Democrats about this, and the liberals and the lunatics. The indictment claims that for the last 25 years, leaders of Venezuela abused public trust in corruptions, institutions, and imports tons of cocaine into the United States. What's a little bump, right? Nicolas Maduro is alleged to be at the center of the entire operation. So understand, and we're not talking about the kidnappings that go on in Venezuela. We're not talking about the human trafficking. We're not talking about the weapons that they sell to terrorist groups. We're not talking about the fact that they've absolutely pillaged all the coffers and took the money away from the people, and that 70% of the people living in poverty. We're not talking about the dissidents and the disagreements that they politically disagree that they murder or make go away forever. We're not talking about any of that. This is just the drug charges, why we were blowing up the drug boats. Maduro is alleged to be at the center of the system, using government authority and corruptions to move cocaine and protect partner traffickers. The document describes a patronage network involving civilian, military, and intelligence officials referred to as the Cartel de la Sol, or the Cartel of the Suns. I want to repeat something here. Involves civilian, military, and intelligence officials. I said last night on our SHR Media special with the boys, the entire, I don't want to say the entire, let's just say 95% of the Venezuelan government is dirty, just so you know. So it names a bunch of defendants. Naturally, right now, only Maduro and his wife were present. The others, I believe, are being charged in absentia. Nicolas Maduro, Desados Rondon, Ramon Chachin, Celia de Maduro, Nicolas Ernesto Maduro Guerrera, also known as Nicolásito and the Prince. I gotta get a badass fucking nickname like that. Somebody started calling me something cool like that, not just all the stuff you guys normally call me when I'm not here. Hector Rustenford Guerrero Flores, also known as Nino. Time window allegations, counts 1 through 4 alleged that this went on from 1999 to 2025. That is why the initial bounty was upped from 25 million to 50 million, which, by the way, I'm still convinced there is at least one happy Venezuelan right now who's going to be probably living somewhere in America with $50 million. That's just my guess. Count 1, narco-terrorism conspiracy, Title 21-968. Allegations include cocaine trafficking tied to providing something of a pecuniary value to designated foreign terrorist organizations and associated. Let me dumb that down for you because I had to have it dumbed down for me. It's not that I'm really smart. That is essentially moving cocaine and funding terrorism, just so you know. Count 2, cocaine importation conspiracy, Title 21, 963. Allegations include importation into the United States and distributing, knowing, and intending unlawful importation with a 5 kilogram threshold cited just slightly above 5 kilos. I have made an arrest for a kilo. I can't imagine 5, never mind the tons that are alleged to have moved in. Count 3, possession, use or carry of machine gun or destructive devices during and in relation to the charged trafficking. Count 4, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices in relation to the charged drug trafficking crimes. Title 18, 924. Organization listed in support of count 1. That's the money for terrorism. FARC. Everyone knows who FARC is. If you don't, you can look it up. ELN. FARC is the anti-government Colombian cartel. They've always been around. They were popular in the 70s and 80s. What's his name there? The big coke dealer out of Colombia. I can't think of his name. The one with the hippos. Funded them heavily as well. ELN, Tren de Agua, Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. CDN, which is also referred as the Zetas in Mexico as well. Just wondering if that's going to come into play here soon. The indictment seeks forfeiture of proceeds of facilitating property tied to drug counts, plus firearms and ammunition tied to firearms counts, including substitute assets if proceeds cannot be located. In other words, Pablo Escobar. Thank you, folks. In other words, everything that was once yours is now ours. The indictment seeks forfeiture of proceeds, as I said. So this is the superseding indictment out of New York. This is, like I said, just the charging document. Who knows? What we do know is who is going to be prosecuting it. He appeared in front of senior judge, district judge Alvin K. Hellerstein, who is a Clinton appointee who was on the bench in 1998. And he has had, and I don't have the list in front of me. I thought I did. He has had some very anti-Trump. He's one of those, do they call it a retired judge or an aging judge? There's a status that they get where the amount of cases that they take slow down. And there's a term for it. I can't remember what it is. He's supposed to be in that status, and he is absolutely not. As a matter of fact, he's somehow got assigned. He's kind of like a quiet Boasberg. He's somehow got assigned a lot of cases involving the federal government, and he has ruled against the Trump administration several times. Insert the joke, maybe not a joke, in which we say, is he going to throw it out? Senility, BZ says. I don't know if that's technically what it is, BZ, of senility, but there's a term for the aging judges. It's not important. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about cases like this and the fraud cases out of Minnesota and all of the other ones. There's something you have to keep in mind. Everyone's saying, where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? You have to understand that as much as maybe you don't like it, we are the good guys who play by the rules. And that means we have to prosecute a case to win beyond a reasonable doubt. In order to do that, especially when we have so many rogue district court justices, as we have seen, you can't give them an inch. You can ask for a change of venue, all that other stuff. Comes to the Somalian fraud. It's going to be months probably before prosecutions start, because they're going to have to, especially a fraud case. BZ will tell you this. Anyone else that's worked in a fraud case will tell you this. The amount of information that you have to process, wait to receive from banks, from accountants, from the IRS even, all that stuff that you have to get subpoenas for, have it issued, and then get the documentation back. And then you put it all together and you say, do we have fraud here? Yes. Okay, now Who knowingly commits that fraud? Who knowingly does this? Who can we prove knowingly did that? It will take time. Just like this case started in 99? It takes time. The worst thing that can happen with this case and the Somali cases is you get in front of a judge like Boasberg or Hellerstein, and your shit is not in order as the prosecution. You don't have everything done right. And all of a sudden stuff starts getting thrown out. It's a thing called fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine that's enormous when it comes to law enforcement and prosecuting cases. It means that if once you can have 20 different segments, but once segment 13 is bad, everything after that can be considered bad too. And you better believe these activist judges will absolutely use that as a case to throw it out for political gain. We already know they're out there. We're already seeing them. Yes, I wish the Senate would do something. Yes, but we're here now. We have to deal with the now. BZ said like he was 42 years as a cop and he was a detective for God knows how long. And my old man worked fraud cases. I helped with a few. I don't want to say I worked a fraud case. I helped with a few back in the day. The amount of resources and information and just making sure your ducks in a row is unbelievably difficult. So I want everyone to keep that in mind. I see so many people, where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? And it's like, dude, this isn't fucking CSI Washington, D.C. Like, this shit actually has to be done right or you lose the case. And then sometimes if you lose one case, everything that's tied to it's gone too. So you got to make sure that, yes, we want the end result to be the conviction of these sons of bitches, in this case, Maduro. But when you're looking at all of these other cases that we're quote unquote waiting for, you need to be patient and have it done right. If it doesn't get prosecuted, that's a shit show. But if all of a sudden they all get thrown out, then you're going to be sitting there screaming, be like, well, how did this happen? Well, I'll tell you how it happens, because it was shoddy and it was quick, and that's not how law enforcement and prosecution works. So just please keep that in mind. So I want to talk a little bit about the pant wedding. You've all heard it. Jersey Joe talked about this earlier today. Now, first of all, the contrast for a second. This is Caracas, and what you're going to see here is the former celebrating the arrest of the dictator. If you go on social media, and I have just for this reason, and you look at the amount of Venezuelan people who actually feel light at the end of the tunnel, the monster that ruined their life is gone, and now maybe something can happen. Something good, maybe. And then let's go to New York and see the shitbags in our own country. So let me explain that first incident. What happened is there was that kid there is counter protesting the protesters who are screaming to let Maduro go, who are screaming that America sucks, who are screaming all the things that they scream. And any time like this, they're taking advantage of the emotionally activated upon the left. That is what they do. That is how they get scenes like this. They throw some money at them. They tell them the whole world is going to end if they don't go out there and do this. And then it goes batshit crazy. One of the shitbag protesters had a Venezuelan flag and was portraying that, like, you need to let Maduro go in order to respect the people of the country of Venezuela and the people. The kid who took the flag, and eventually a police officer took it back because it wasn't his, was saying, no, that's my country. We're celebrating this. And he's holding that up, like trying to support Maduro. We don't support Maduro. We want him gone. Look, it's private property. It's an emotional time, but the cop was like, you can't just swipe his flag, which he's right. The cop's right in that situation. Quell it. That doesn't make the kid who was upset that they were using the Venezuelan flag any less valid, but in the moment you got to handle it. But let's keep watching these shitheads who are trying to protest the arrest of Maduro.
Yeah, we are Venezuela. You are for my country. What part of Venezuela you are? 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 You are not for my country. You not for my country. You are not for my country. You are not for my country.
Imagine down shouting the people who were actually victims. It's amazing to me. And you're seeing this with liberals all over the place, including in politics, Democrats. All of these idiots are somehow supporting Maduro. Trump broke them to the point that they're supporting the Venezuela dictator. And that's where we are in America right now. And it is absolutely just, it's mind-boggling to me. When we come back and we'll talk about another country that is in turmoil, which would be Iran. And that'll be right after this. Please like and subscribe. Do me a favor. Start the year off right by liking and subscribing. We'll be right back.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRN Radio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Oh, if you're not in the chat room, shame on you. Thank you so much for being here. It is the second segment of the show tonight. We're going to go over to Iran. And this is kind of ties in to Venezuela. So it started last week, really, somewhere on New Year's Day. Protesters started firing up. Now, look, the big talking point of this is, oh, they're really mad about the financial situation. Yeah, okay, their inflation's up 300,000% or something like that. Their what cost of living is up, their wages are down. And then they're throwing out videos like this
معیشت مردم و کاهش فشارهای اقتصادی که بر مردم
to
وجود
try to
داره و
like
به طور
save
مشخص
themselves.
یکی از
And what
موضوعات
she's saying right
عدالتی
here
هست که
is,
باید در
we're going to
توزیع
give you
منابع
$7
وجود
extra
داشته
a
باشه.
month
امروز در
as
جلسه هیئت دولت موضوعاتی
a
به تصویب
stimulus.
رسید. البته صبح
How
امروز
bad it
هم
is over
در
there
ستاد
where
اقتصادی
$7 a month
دولت
is what they're trying to
کلیات و
sell to people
جزئیات
in order
طرح
to
و بهبود
stop
معیشت
the
مردم
riot.
به تصویب رسید.
How bad are the riots gotten? Well, entire cities. And it's hard to know. I said this on X earlier. You never know what's really going on in Iran. You have very limited media. What you do have is state media for the most part. Internet is unbelievably limited, though I heard that they're doing some things to try to change that. Something along the lines of Elon Musk. They're taking over. The Far News reported that 3 protesters killed and injured were killed and 17 were injured in an attack against a police station in Loristan. President Trump publicly warned Iran over protest deaths and said the U.S. would come to the aid of protesters if security forces began firing on them. The Ayatollah said he would not yield as unrest continued. And Iranian media, of course, reported that the IRGC conducted missile and air tests. I want to talk about that in a second. But you have this catalyst may have been the final financial destruction of Iran's money. But a month ago, they were running out of water. People forget talking about that too. They were running out of water. And then they got lucky that there was a gigantic rainstorm for a few days that kind of bought them some time. And I don't mean like they were going to run out of water, like the pressure was going to go down. No, there were parts of the country that were already water rationing and had to go to a certain location in order to get an approved amount of water to live for a few days. The Trump effect. One day after Maduro captures, some reports say Iran's supreme leaders were getting ready to flee to Moscow, which is where all good Middle Eastern dictators fly off to. Yeah, I was going to get to that. So there are reports that he's at least on standby to take off, that this is getting out of control. Look, I mean, if you're the Ayatollah and you're used to just mowing down any protesters, which is what they do. They shoot them, they put them in prison, they drag them off and say they put them in prison, but they really just kill them, yada, yada, yada. That's been their MO for years. But you've seen what Trump's done a few times. And look, Trump's already sent one message when we went in and nuked your nuclear facilities. The Ayatollah knows, I think, Trump doesn't bullshit. Now, again, I don't want our troops in the Middle East. I don't want that. However, if we did, I don't know, like another bombing run to take out the military because they're unaliving protesters, I wouldn't be against that. And look, you have to worry about who's going to fill that vacuum. That's something that happens every single time somewhere in the Middle East falls. Who's going to fill that vacuum? People are talking about the Shah's son coming back. Okay, maybe, but can he rally the country around him? Some people are alleging, hey, there's been a rise of Christianity and it's not as Muslim as people think it is. It's just that people are okay, maybe. You have the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and that are hanging around in Qatar. I think is it Qatar? Yeah, I think it's Qatar. That are all hanging around wondering, like, well, maybe we can take that over. Is that the lesser of the evils at this moment? Yes. Is that a long-term solution? Probably not for us. It probably just means we'll end up dumping more money in there if we ever get a president in there who goes back to doing what the last 46 minus one presidents did. So that's an issue you got to worry about with Iran. Now, just like Venezuela, for the people of Iran, I don't care individually what they believe in or whatever. They're repressed, suppressed, absolutely just, they're prisoners in their own country. And as an American who believes in liberty, I can't fucking jive with that. So I want to see them free because I think that the more people, the more opportunity there is in this world for people to actually understand freedom and liberty, the more it will grow, right? So that opportunity has to be there. But all of that aside, just as a human, I just can't have it. So I want to see those people free. I want the Iranian leadership gone. If the Ayatollah disappeared tomorrow, I would absolutely have a cocktail toasting it. He is a horrible human being. The amount of terrorism that he has supported throughout this world. And now you start looking at internationally, what happens if the Ayatollah flees or the country falls, which it's still, we don't know where it is yet, because I would not put it past the IGRC or the IRGC to just start leveling people and hope to repress it. I really would not put it past them. They're fucking monsters. 100% monsters. I hope it doesn't get to that. But now look at, if Iran falls, and even if the flow of oil is only interrupted for, say, 6 months to a year, what does that do to China? What does that do to Russia? What does that do to North Korea? All the people in Turkey, but those are the three big ones. All the people who survive on Iranian oil. Plus, you look at Russia using Iranian drones like crazy. That's one of their biggest assaults right now. That goes away. It would greatly impact a lot of things. Yeah, the devil, a lot of people will say that, but this is a devil we know, and we know is unacceptable. So it affects the world. Now, when all this first started, before the Venezuela thing, there was a lot of chatter that if the Ayatollah had to flee, Venezuela was on the list of places, mostly as a political deal with Russia, because Russia didn't want to take another failed Islamist dictator, because they already had Assad. They have a history of doing that, and they're trying. Russia's trying to get the eyes off of them, because people forget that they're losing a war against a country that on paper they should have rolled over, and they can't do it. Russia's doing everything they can, and you could tell that with the Venezuela invasion. They're doing everything they can to try to stay out of the papers, because they're getting their asses kicked in. I mean, I just saw that coming up on the anniversary of the 3-year anniversary of the Ukraine war, they've only got 1% of land, and it's cost them 1 million bodies to do it. They're not winning. They're not winning. I talked to them last night how letting them expand into Venezuela, because they could dump nukes there as a threat in order to try to get leverage back, because they have nothing. The world has seen Russia for what it is, and everybody knows it. Listen to post says, Paper Tiger and the paper is the leftover paper you had from one shelf in 1988. Yeah. Look, and the other thing that the Venezuela, just talking about Russia for a minute, the other thing the Venezuela thing highlighted is all the air defense, with the exception of one system, but the majority of the air defense was Venezuela, was supplied by Russia, and it didn't work. It didn't stop us. Hell, it didn't even fucking fire off, right? We were able to absolutely mitigate all of that. So, you start looking at that, and that's now Russia even more exposed. By the way, the other systems that were in there, Chinese, and we beat that too. So you look at the geopolitical world right now, with Iran being in absolute turmoil, and legitimately, I'm not 100%, but legitimately the Ayatollah could lose power. That country could swap over. That's a potential right now, because the videos we are seeing, the information we are getting, is that the military is losing in a lot of places. It's kind of it's questionable. But you look at what just happened to Venezuela, and then you look at Russia's been exposed now for 3 years. China, their air defense systems in Venezuela failed. That's just like an inkling. Everybody knows their economy's destroyed, and they depend heavily. 20% of their oil comes from Iran. So not only if the Ayatollah falls is terrorism kneecapped all through the Middle East, because again, Yemen, Hamas, Hezbollah, and a lot of other smaller names that you don't know about, I'm sure ISIS-K as well, gets a lot of their shit from Iran. I gotta catch up on the chats here. Sorry, chatters. I've had a lot to say and I haven't had a chance to interact with you folks. Iranians are historically Persians. Persians create Muslims with no such history other than to destroy. Let's see. Venezuelan and Persian women's looking good for American husband. Let's see. I'm getting this here. I see the link, but I don't know what you want me to look for with that, Joe, but thank you. Oh, there it is. I'm putting it up in chat. Let's see what Joe just sent me in the chat room. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Let me share this tab really quick. Put that over here and then put this up here. This is, according to war surveillance, protesters are taking control of Hamadan and the holy city of Qom. How do you say that one? I know that's one of the missiles that's out there too. 150 kilometers from Tehran and is now largely under control. Well, and the other thing you have to consider, while the Republican Guard is brutal and unbelievably loyal, a lot of the regular military are suffering as well. Calm. Thank you, listening post. Calm, which it is not calm. A lot of the Iranian military is suffering as well. They're not getting paid. I saw a report the other day that said half of them haven't been paid in months. There's no food. There's no water. So they may not be putting up the fight either. It's the Republican Guard that you got to worry about because they're the absolute loyalists and they're the ones who will do a lot. Now, Saturday night, I think it was Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday or Sunday, Iran did an air defense drill where they launched off a couple of air defense rockets. They fired up their anti-aircraft guns. They announced, we're doing this big drill, blah, 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 blah. And I said, that's the sign of a strong man trying to feign control. Because with all this turmoil going around, what Khomeini is saying is, oh no, look, we still have air defense. Israel didn't take it all out, clearly, because we still have this missile that they probably hot-wired and covered their ears and ran away to get it to go up. They're not scaring us because we can still run military drills. By the way, it probably took only 15 people to take to run that whole friggin' display. But that is a strong man in recession. When he's trying to show how strong he still is and how much power he still has, and he still has the ability to defend, I'm sure some of that was to say to the United States on some weird level of like, well, look, don't come over here and start any shit because we can still send this up, which we don't believe they can, because Israel, when they bombed them last year, they got at least 80% of their anti-aircraft coverage. So the fact that he pulled that out and wanted to show that as like, hey, look at our missiles, look at our guns, we're still in control, says to me they're not in control. Like I said, the video we just showed you, the things that we just talked about, the people in Iran is what happens when you push a population too far, when you repress them and suppress them so far, when you take away so much freedom and liberty, when the government runs everything and the costs go out of control and then inflation hits and all of a sudden one Iranian dollar, and I know it's got another name, just shoot me for not remembering it off the top of my head, it is worth negative American currency, essentially. This is what you're going to get. And then you take just the oppression, the violent oppression that's been going on there for years. This is what happens. And I'll tell you, something like this only needs a little help to go a long way. And I believe they're getting that. There's been talks that Mossad's already on the ground. There's been talks that other people are on the ground. And all of that is entirely possible. I don't know. I'm not there. You're not there. And the information that comes out of there is minimum. But I will tell you something. When this first started, I kind of looked at it like the last Iranian protest, where it was 2-3 days. The government said, let them have their fun, get it out of their system, and then we'll start killing everybody who doesn't go home when we say. Here we go, Reverb Common Sense. Oh, this was what I played earlier, yeah. Individuals can receive an amount of equivalent to 1 million tomans, which is $7, per person per month who is credited to their account for 4 months. So they're going to get a total of $28, and that's what they're hoping buys them off. We will see. Again, I don't count any chickens before they hatch in this. I know what those monsters are capable of. I would have zero doubt that they're calling in help from Hamas and Hezbollah and Yemen and anywhere else that they can get people to come in that have zero issues murdering innocent people, children, and women. This is far from over. But this is the first time where I can honestly say I'm not 100% on which way it's going to go. I got to take a break. Come back. Oh, God, what's the last segment? Is it Walz? Yeah, I'm going to talk about Timmy and a couple other things that popped up onto my feed. Please do me a favor. Like the episode itself. Subscribe to the channel. Wherever you're watching from, come over to YouTube. Have fun with us over on YouTube. Just search SHR Media. Hanging out with us. We're up to 705 subscribers. We're hoping to, like I said, break 750 here as soon as we can and then keep growing. That would be fan-freaking-tastic. Thanks for watching. Be back in a minute.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here in the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, if you go to shrmedia.com, there's a couple of really good articles on there. A couple by Jersey Joe. You had a couple by Big E. When bail reform becomes a death sentence and you will own nothing and die. Both of those you need to check out. I think both of those are by Big E. They are. And then Jersey Joe wrote a couple good ones today about Walz, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And Judge Hannah Dugan, who's resigned. And you can read about that at shrmedia.com. But I want to talk a little bit about another story that I wrote earlier today. Didn't get a lot of coverage in the press, which is the attack on the Ohio home of Vice President J.D. Vance. A person was arrested after they broke the windows. Unknown what their intentions were right now. I'm sure we'll find out eventually. I don't think there'll be another Tiananmen Square. I wouldn't put anything past the IRGC. I'm just answering chats, folks. Mike in the chat said, I don't think there'll be another Tiananmen Square. Look, that could happen again in China tomorrow. Those communists don't care. I know everything's about public eye right now and trying to make things look good, but I mean, still, if they get pushed, I won't say never with stuff like that. But the attempted burglary or property damage or whatever it was at the vice president's home, which it's not the vice president residence. It is his Ohio home. It's his actual like house. I was shocked that I only saw a few people talking about this because it's the vice president. Now, if we go back a couple years and somebody showed up to Vice President Harris's house in California and broke in or broke the windows and did a whole bunch of stuff, we'd hear about it for days. Hell, the Paul Pelosi thing, who is not vice president, we heard about for days, weeks, months, right? It still comes up today. But you have this lunatic whose name, well, I got it right here somewhere. His name escapes me at the moment. Here it is. William DeFore showed up with a hammer and tried to break in. Police took him into custody. The problem is William DeFore also goes by a different name, which is Julia. Are you now seeing maybe why you did not hear about this? Julia was the one who went to the vice president's house with a hammer. Julia is the one who is in custody. And Julia, quote unquote, is not Julia's name. Julia's name, as I said, is Willem DeFore. So just something to keep track of that. See how much traction that gets. The answer is going to be not very much because of, like Joe said, because it's a leftist and they're trans. Speaking of leftists and, man, he's not trans, but man, he loves to dance. Governor Walz kind of dropped a bomb today. Reports came out last night. I remember seeing before I was going to bed that he was probably going to drop out of the race. His Finkel is Einhorn. If you get that reference, listen and post in the chat, put that up. If you get that reference, yes, we can be friends. That was fantastic. So Skip and Timmy, Tampon Tim, depends on what you want to call him. I like calling him Skip and Timmy because he spent half the vice presidential campaign and trail just dancing all over the stage. The man with the most awkward physical movements. He's one of those, you know, I'm going to throw everything out aside. I'm not going to talk about anything else for right now because this is something that I don't think that we say enough. He might be the most strange human being in a public setting that you could absolutely ever see. His antics. I mean, how many times did you see him do the weird head shakes, and then he's like kicking his leg up for no reason? Like, absolutely. And I said this when he was running. He's the guy who I would be like, oh yeah, no, I know you work for the babysitting company, but I'm sorry, we canceled our plans tonight. I'm like, listen, you can't ever send that guy to my fucking house again. He's a weird dude. So today he put out this post that said, I'm proud of the work we did in Minnesota, of the work we've done to make Minnesota the best place to live and raise kids. I've decided to step out of the race and let others worry about the election while I focus on the work. Let me rephrase that. I have no way of winning. There is a lot of bad shit coming my way, and the Democrats don't want me to get 85% of the way through this campaign, be the Democratic leader, and then get brought up on charges and have to step away from it, and then essentially cede the seat over to whoever his opposition is. Why is that? Well, we all know about the Somali daycare center, which is not just daycare. I know Mike Lindell is running. I hope Mike Lindell does well. We all know he just failed. I'll tell you, Harris's campaign, or running with Harris, exposed him a lot more than I thought he was being exposed as governor, even in the state. I think it opened a lot of eyes. All of his weird campaign ads and all that other stuff that people are still going to associate with him. Then you start looking at the fraud. Then you start looking, don't forget the double murder that took place last year, the 4 people shot, double murder, whose name came back to Walz. That's going to come out in a case here very shortly as well. The state has unbelievable problems going on right now, and Walz Well, he was in charge. And what happens when you're in charge? You get held accountable. So who does this open the door for? Well, as Joe talked about earlier and a bunch of other people, and somebody who is kind of in the know in that state reached out to me and said, the prediction right now and what's going through some of the circles is that Klobuchar is going to run, Senator Amy Klobuchar. Now, here's the plan. If she wins, which, I mean, I hate to say it, Mike Lindell and not, in Minnesota, the Democrats probably going to win just because of the population basis. That's not guaranteed, but it's a lot like California and Massachusetts where the odds are working against the Republicans. I hope that's not the case, but I have to be realistic about it. If Klobuchar gets in, the day she gets in and wins, big if, she then has to appoint someone to fill her Senate seat, and that somebody could very well be Tim Walz. That is a nightmare scenario. Yeah, Mike, I heard that today, early this morning too. And that's a nightmare scenario because there's a better chance of being able to pick up that Senate seat than take the governorship, in my humble opinion. It would be a special election. You just have a better chance that way. Other people running or being named or possible are Secretary of State Stephen Smith and AG Keith Ellison. You remember him, right? And the GOP field right now looks like House Speaker Lisa DeMuth, Mike Lindell, Kendall Qualls, Chris Medell, Scott Jensen. And then somehow, I don't know, the Republicans the same. Marco Rubio might run. That's weird. He doesn't even live in Florida. But I mean, the guy can do anything, right? So at this point, it's entirely possible that last part was a joke. Ladies and gentlemen, Marco Rubio is not running for Senate in Minnesota or governor or anything else in Minnesota. That was a joke. So you now have the fall, and that doesn't include what was said tonight. And I'm gonna play this because I have it somewhere. But you now have the vice president candidate, Tim Walz, who just completely crashed. And I mean completely crashed from where he once was. He was a rising star for the Democrats until he was exposed. The other question, and I'm trying to think of her name. Oh, let me pull it out here somewhere because I know I have it. This is on me. I have a post, but somebody on X earlier tonight said that, and it's somebody in the know, is that Kamala Harris is thinking about running again for president. And I said, oh God, please let this happen. Let this please happen. But now comes into the question, if she does run for president again, what did her administration and her campaign last time know about Tim Walz? And what did they accept about Tim Walz? That will be a huge question if she were to run again. And that's kind of an important one to ask, because look, remember, they're supposed to vet him. Now, we all said the whole time that Tim was running as VP is like, who the hell vetted this guy? Who talked to him? It was like, yes, this is the face of masculinity. No. Big E just said, sorry, if he's going to be under the much legal jeopardy of appointing him to the seat would be stupid. It would be stupid. However, it might buy them time. And it also, look, they're in scramble mode. That's a really good point. I understand what you're saying, but they're in scramble mode, I think, in Minnesota right now for the Democrats. And we've talked about on my show and other shows, we've talked about several times how the Democrats don't have a very, very, very deep bench. And they may have a couple of names here and there that they can waft around. And yeah, they're going to do good, but it's like, you know, you run a Democrat in Massachusetts, a Democrat's going to win in Massachusetts hands down most of the time, right? But you start looking at that, and you start looking at the bench or the lack of bench that they have, it shows you why they have to make moves like that. It shows you why they would have to drop a Walz in so they can prop somebody up and make them on the level again, like they did with Harris, like they did with Tim Walz. They had to create them out of the air. Look, if Walz ever ran for president by himself, do you think anybody would have voted for that asshat? No. Minnesota, maybe. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Yes, you will have the Democrats who will vote D no matter what. Throw them aside because they're not what wins the elections. Just like, I hate to say it, conservatives like me aren't what wins election. It's the undecided. It's the centrists. They're the ones that are going to win an election. And the only thing Tim Walz has to run on legitimately that would actually be appetizing for anybody is, and not even the whole like paid time off, state paid leave for time off for illness and all this other stuff and for having a baby, which is, it should all be there. I mean, that's just should be a normal thing, but so many states done that. You can't really run on that. Getting lunch for students entirely free. Is that a great thing? Yeah, I do think that's a good thing. I will give him credit for that. Our taxpayers pay already for those schools. If it's a public school, then school lunch should be included. I've never understood that. If I'm paying for all this, then I'm already paying for this as a taxpayer. Lindy Lee was who put out that Kamala's thinking about running this year. That's who I was trying to remember, and I apologize for not remembering her sooner. So nobody would have ran for Walz, and they vetted him and said he's the least offensive. Now, if Harris decides that she wants to jump back into this race again, which I said, bring it on. I would love Kamala Harris to run again because for my show's sake alone. I mean, let's be honest. The amount of stuff that we got from her would be gold. Plus, there's enough idiots on the left who might actually nominate her and she would be destroyed nationally again. So yeah, I'd be all for it. What do I got? 4 minutes left. I got a couple other stories to get to. Interesting. And Tim Burchett verified that he said this. Tim Burchett says he thinks there's a paper trail of money that was sent overseas, i.e. USAID and other groups like that, that ended up back in the pockets of lawmakers in Washington, D.C. He said there will soon be a lot of retirements. I saw this post and I was like, wow, okay, I guess, and this is from Wake Up Patriot. I'm not saying it's untrustworthy, but I like to see the politicians say things myself or see them write it myself so I know it comes directly from them and it's not somehow pulled from something that they said where it could be misconstrued. And Tim Burchett, I kept saying Walz, responded to that and retweeted it and said, yeah, I hate being wrong. So that's kind of an ominous statement. That means, ladies and gentlemen, you ain't seen nothing yet as far as this foreign money, which brings me back to Venezuela and a couple other places. Is that where money got turned around and sent back up here? And it's not going to be all Republicans, as much as mainstream media and the leftists are going to say, oh, Republicans do this. No. I'm not saying there won't be. You always get a couple, right? Unfortunately, right, wrong, or indifferent, you always have a couple. And I will shit on them happily shit on them. But we also know who is benefiting from the USAID money. We've been talking about it for years. It's going to be Democrats. And if what he says is true and you have a sudden rush of retirements in the next year, and you have all of these short elections going into the midterms because all of a sudden 7-8 months in, people are like, oh, yep, I got to retire. I don't feel like running anymore because shit's rolling downhill and my mouth's open. Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Okay. I mean, look, I already said we're going to pick up a couple of seats at midterms. I think in both houses, we're going to get a couple of seats. It won't be a red wave as much as I know people love to say that, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Venezuela things help. I think a lot of things are going to help that. But I think if this comes to fruition, if what Representative Burchett is saying is true, there's a lot of seats out there that are going to have to be won by Democrats at the last minute. And they don't have a good track record at that. And there are a lot of seats, especially in the House, that can go either way. And if the incumbent retires early because they've been nailed in a pay-to-play scheme, a foreign money scheme, or whatever, that's going to hurt that party in that district at that time. It's going to be interesting to see. BZ said murmurs indicate Rand Paul hooked into the cash. Also, Lindsey Graham. Anything's possible. I won't say anything until the numbers come out. I want to see it myself, but we will know very, very soon, I'm guessing. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for me for the first show of 2025. I hope you enjoyed it. Or 2026, rather. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very, very much for being here. Please like and subscribe, especially at SHR. We get a lot of things going on. I want to thank KLRN for simulcasting. But on the SHR side, every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock in the East Coast, you have the Reaver Common Sense with Jersey Joe, who made his regular show return this evening. He had a couple specials, but tonight was his regular show. I was glad to see him back at the home. Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men with my boy Big E. Tuesday, Thursday nights, you have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. The conservative Sherpa himself, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. And then on Sundays, I know it's not every single week, but you do have the Lost Wanderer who likes to peek in on the SHR YouTube, so make sure you check that out. Thank you very much for being here. I'll be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You can follow me on Twitter, the number 2 Against Tyranny. Have a great couple days. I'll talk to you Wednesday night.